Hello! The talk of the internet yesterday and today is about a potential remake of The Lord of the Flies, but like a lot of things that have been going on lately, they're talking about making it an all-female remake. And this seems to have upset a lot of people. Not MRAs, not men's rights activists, not misogynists, not the bare handful of people that maybe had some kind of misandrist complaint about the last Mad Max film or whatever else, or the Ghostbusters remake, which wasn't misandrist or whatever. It was people who wanted their nostalgic vision to be preserved. No, not those people, but lots and lots and lots of feminists. So it seems, Tumblr-style feminists, and this seems a little weird because if there's no difference between men and women, then why would Lord of the Flies play out any differently? In the case of it all being girls, why would that be any different? But the crux of their complaint seems to be that they think Lord of the Flies would never happen with women, that women would cooperate somehow and get on with each other, and there wouldn't be the same conflict and violence that we see in the original film. That attitude that women are somehow superior to men isn't supposed to be what feminism is. It's a profoundly misandrist idea, and it's also a profoundly kind of patriarchal idea. The old idea was always that women were on this pedestal, or that they were in many ways better than men, that they were to be preserved from these difficult circumstances, and so on. So we seem to have replaced one form of sexism with another in regard to this reaction. It is a way more widespread reaction than there was against the Mad Max film, for example. But I think this could be interesting. I don't think we need a straightforward remake of Lord of the Flies. The older version of the film is still terrifying for all it gets shown to kids in schools. And it has this cynicism about society that is what makes it resonate. It's based on Golding's experiences as a teacher with classes, seeing how horrendous and horrible boys can be to each other, and showing that if reduced to a state of nature, man is little better than an animal. And I think that kind of superior attitude that he was pricking with a needle, that balloon of ego that we have about ourselves, I think doing that to girls, doing that to women, doing that to feminism could be a really valuable and interesting thing, and a sufficiently different take on the whole concept, because girls on average are different to boys in a lot of ways, and their responses to this kind of situation might be just as vicious, just as dangerous, just as nasty, just in a different way. I'm hoping we get mean girls with spears. That's what I'm hoping for. And I can see it being even more kind of character and social driven, the nastiness, and seeing how the context changes from the start to the end of the film is something that could be really interesting. What makes you popular and successful in society and in civilization will not be what makes you popular and successful when you're stranded on a desert island with no one else but these other girls for company. Different skills, different qualities will then be needed, and how is that going to affect the relationship between the girls? I'd like to see the popular girls, the movers and shakers, reduced to savagery. I want to see how the ideals of, say, a vegetarian hippie girl gets challenged when the only thing to eat is pig meat. That's what I want to see, this kind of breakdown, this challenge. I want to see these illusions stripped away, and these girls, just the same as anyone else, reduced to a state of savagery. I want to see that cynicism. I want to see those ideals stripped away and burnt away, and just see what emerges at the end. So if I were to direct it, how would I go about it? I'd shoot the first part of the film digitally, and I would intercut it with things like the girls' Instagram videos and so on, to set up, that their relationships, their cliques, the popular pretty girls, the hippie girl is vegetarian, refusing whatever meal that she's offered. You know, the outcasts, the big hefty fat girl, the nerd, whatever, the ones who are cast out. And then I would shoot the latter half of the film traditionally on film using a muted color palette maybe, or a richer color palette, and so on, to really bring forth that kind of organic stuff and make it look more primitive. And then I would chronicle these shifting, the shift of power and so on, from the popular girls who are pretty but essentially useless to the outcasts. The big hefty girl is suddenly someone you want on your side. The nerd knows how to do things. These people become useful, tradable even. But then the mean girl clique can still use their social power and so on to draw people to them, get them to do things for them, and the whole thing just kind of collapses and descends into savagery. What's interesting though is there have been Survivor type series where they have set up men islands and women islands. Now in several of these, the women have been absolutely useless. They have essentially not been able to do anything, didn't try anything, had to be rescued, stuff like that. On other occasions though, where they kind of hand-picked the teams a bit, I think there was one of Bear Grylls' ones where one of the women was an amputee ex-military person. She kind of took charge, already had the skills, and they were put up against a bunch of frankly quite whiny men. But in most other instances where they've done this, it hasn't turned out that way. So a lot will depend, for plausibility, upon how they set this film up. Are they girl guides? Are they girl scouts? Or what are they in this instance? And that will make a big difference to the plausibility of the film. But still, I think there's nothing wrong with this as an idea. You want to show that even with this different setup, which is justified in this instance, I don't think it's an unnecessary remake. It would be an interesting remake depending how they go about it. It'd be interesting to see how they approach that societal collapse in that way, and it may be more shocking and more horrible precisely because we hold girls up on this pedestal and expect them to be better, and that's a fault that you find in patriarchal norms and matriarchal norms. So I actually quite look forward to seeing this in the end and seeing how they approach it, and I hope they give it that kind of nuanced, equally cynical but still slightly gendered approach. I think that is what will make it worthwhile. Zang. It's been called misogynistic, racist, a hate group, reactionary. It's been blamed for Trump, for keeping women out of games and technology. None of this is true. If you want the real story, then you need to buy Inside Gamergate.